Today we're diving into a crucial skill that can transform your life: nervous system regulation. If you're watching this, you probably know what it feels like to be triggered. Someone pushes your buttons, or you lose your temper, you get defensive, or things just seem to get out of control. That is nervous system dysregulation, when we overreact physiologically to the situation. I'm not saying that the situation isn't important, only that the physical response you're experiencing is more at the level of physical danger, and it's compromising your ability to handle the actual situation, which probably requires your highest level of communication skills and intellect. We can't avoid problems and difficult situations, but we can control our response. In a world of nonstop communication, nervous system regulation can be one of the most powerful skills you can master. And that's what you will learn in this video. One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He describes a code of conduct based on ancient Toltec wisdom that can help you live an amazing life. First is to be impeccable with your word. Number two is don't make assumptions. Number three, don't take anything personally. And the fourth is to always do your best. To be impeccable with your word, he talks about words having powers like casting spells, which is true on many levels, and how they affect people, how they affect our own thinking ability. I can be impeccable with my word, but I can't control other people's words. And that leads to making assumptions, to sensing problems, and taking things personally, and feeling attacked, insulted, invalidated, and getting dysregulated, making it really hard to do our very best, right? So how can we stay regulated? Think of your brain and your emotions as part of your human operating system. We always want to be running optimally. We don't want errors, or for it to run out of memory or crash when we need it to work. So we need to understand why we get dysregulated, what's happening internally. Then we'll be better able to recognize when it starts to happen and restore the nervous system to its optimal state. But it's really hard not to look for the negative in what people say and do. Why is that? It's because that's the nervous system's job. It's been working as a danger detector for most of human evolution. This is known as negativity bias. It's a survival mechanism that helps us notice threats in the environment. Our ancestors had to be alert to dangers to survive. They see a shadow from behind a rock. It could be a bunny, it could be a tiger, but you're better to assume the worst and not die. It's one thing to notice negative things or ruminate or be annoyed, but what about when you get really triggered, like really out of control and dysregulated? This is a phenomenon called amygdala hijack. Basically, the nervous system perceives a huge threat, and whether it's real or not, the amygdala kicks into overdrive, activating this fight or flight response. So your body basically takes over. It puts the non-essential functions on power save and diverts all your resources to either do battle or run away. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. Adrenaline, cortisol racing through, your heart rate increases, muscles get tense, and you may act like an idiot. You're emotionally dysregulated. As we start trying to communicate, like talk in this state, this is not a state for talking, right? It gets even worse because we panic over the things we're saying because they're not making sense. And the truth is that this automatic response doesn't always align with reality, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense because these triggers were rooted in early childhood experiences, a lot of them. If your first experience, like with a dog, was positive, then you may feel positive around dogs. But if you were attacked, then you might get really triggered. The problem is that sometimes we have no idea what's going on. The triggers are rooted in some kind of really emotional event that left an imprint, and that results in a schema. So it's sort of an automatic response that plays to a certain type of stimuli, and it's like muscle memory, but it's emotional muscle memory. Things like complex PTSD, attachment trauma, behavioral disorders, these are all huge areas of study, and there's so many ways to understand like the root of these triggers and how to heal and grow. This video is about regulating your nervous system. What's important to know is that A trauma is not what happened, but the trauma is how you were affected, how you were injured. Kind of like stepping on a nail. It doesn't, it's not the stepping or what kind of nail it was. It's the injury, the nail in your foot. So you don't need to know who did it or how unfair it was and all these things. You just need to treat the injury. Psychological traumas are emotional wounds caused by unresolved negative experiences. They don't heal because we adapt our behavior to avoid experiencing that pain again, which would be kind of like leaving the nail in your foot and hopping around on the other foot so it doesn't hurt. By recognizing the triggering event and calming your emotions and restoring emotional regulation, you are desensitizing that trigger. Essentially, you're healing the trauma wound in many cases because you're showing that part of yourself you can handle situations like this. You're telling your nervous system you're good, you're safe, it doesn't need to take over. And that can have a profound impact psychologically. So the first step is to develop a sense of awareness so we can counteract the hijacking. Recognizing and naming is the first step to changing. What should you look for? There are some obvious physical, emotional, and behavior cues. Physical sensations, tightness in your chest, rapid heartbeat, or shallow breathing, face gets hot. Emotional signals like feeling anxiety, irritability, or overwhelm. There's behavioral signs like reacting defensively or wanting to shut down or withdraw or getting argumentative. Like for me, often I get kind of passive aggressive or sarcastic. Recognizing these signals is the first step to regaining control. Actually, like just recognizing it, you're starting to reactivate your prefrontal cortex, which is telling your nervous system you may be okay. Additionally, it's important to recognize the kind of situations or topics or whatever where it occurs, because then you can start to pre-prepare for the situations. So you recognize what's happening. What can you do to get back to your optimal state? So basically you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which it will start releasing chemicals to counter the cortisol and adrenaline and calm you down. It's the opposite of fight or flight. So we call it rest and digest or stay and play. And in these situations, a lot of times it's not really possible to go meditate or throw cold water in your face, right? So we need more subtle ways to overcome the dysregulation. We can start with your breathing. So long, slow exhales and inhales. Like this is the universal sign for your nervous system that you're safe. Like you're not going to run from a tiger and breathe slow. Another is somatic sensing. So sensing the sensation, the feeling that you're experiencing, and then sensing other things. Like you can sense where your toes are connected to your socks or wind on your face. So you can touch parts of your body, like rub, try to kind of go across your body to sense different areas and different feelings or where you're physically connected to the chair. Change the conversation. I mean, typically we get dysregulated when people say things and push our buttons. So instead of being defensive or fighting to be understood, like try to be curious. Try to fight to understand the other person. What do you mean by that? Or how is that? How so? Or how can I help with it? Or, what else is there, right? Like you don't have to, I think I get this feeling almost like I have to say the whole thing that's going to change the other person's mind and win the conversation, right? As if I'm, objecting to the jury and I have to make a statement. You can say little things. How so? What do you mean? Tell me more about that. And this helps the person feel like you care, you're curious, and it helps them feel understood. So it can help the other person to regulate their nervous system. Visualizations can be useful. I use a visualization of a thermometer in like the back of my head, right? So you think if you're triggered, you imagine the mercury's gone up to red and it's going to explode. So as you're breathing slowly and feeling your body, right, you can imagine that thermometer slowly dropping back down. Another one is when things like this happen, you can almost sense your heart closing, getting really tight. Now, if you imagine when you see someone you love or you see, the ocean or a puppy or something awesome, you can imagine your heart opening. So whenever you feel like that heart closing, you can visualize it opening up. These are all kind of exercises to use in real time. But things like meditation and yoga, these are great because these kind of put you in an annoying state, and then you can practice the idea of getting back to calm, knowing that you can move into that state and out of that state. One exercise I use, I call the traffic light meditation. And, I live on a really long road with a lot of traffic lights. And, sometimes they're all green and I can go. And then other times it seems like they all turn red right before I get to them. And it's usually when I'm late. When I feel this happening and I feel the tension, I like to remember that the traffic light is not actually connected to me. There's no way it can make me feel anything, any different. It shouldn't change my feelings. So I am doing that so I can practice not feeling any different when the light changes. Just remember to, pay attention to your feelings and the sensations and to practice these techniques regularly. Most importantly, be patient with yourselves. I mean, these are patterns that developed over your whole life, over many generations of human development. So it might take a little while to master them. You're going to have good days and bad days, but when you do slip, think of other factors like, did you get enough sleep? Were you hungry? There's an acronym HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Now, these can all kind of compromise your ability to do this. Sometimes I get caught off guard, and usually it's a situation where there's like a few different triggers and just like totally different and catches me off guard. But that can still be a win because when you think about it later, you look at, what happened and how I could have been better prepared or responded better. You're still learning and growing. One of my favorite quotes is from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So there you have it. We can all make nervous system regulation a superpower. I'm Dean Whitney. I'm a neuroscience life coach helping people to get better. If you can relate to any of this or find it helpful, please share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. I hope to see you again soon. And remember, you are a gift. Stay present.